Yeah, guys. So let's get started with the remaining types of constructors. So we have seen default constructor or parameterized constructor and copy constructor in the last session. Today we are talking about the remaining two, static constructor and private constructor. So before we discuss static constructor, let's have a look at a static keyword in C Sharp. So how many ways we can use static keyword in C Sharp? Let us discuss all the three ways. Like one is a static data member. First one. Second one is something called static method or static member function. Third one is static constructor. So that you will understand all these three together. Okay. So let's get started with the static data member. So static data member or static member variable. So what is this? It's a variable. It's a variable or member variable. It's a variable or data member, you can say, which is created or preceded with static keyword. Preceded with the static keyword. Okay. I can say it is a class variable. Okay. Class variable means member variable or data member. Okay. Or data member, which is preceded with static keyword. And what is the difference if you add static keyword? What is the advantage or difference? Only one copy of the only one copy of the static data member will be created and it is shared by all the objects of the same class. Shared by all the objects of the same class. Let us see the example. Suppose if you have a class, okay, in that class called student, we have a class called student. Inside student class, I have so many member variables like private integer, roll number, I said R and O, private string name, okay, string means group of characters I want to store, name of the student, and of course we should write all of them in lowercase, and private double average. Okay, these are all different from student to student, right? Every student will have their own roll number, name, and average. What is common to all the students, that should be written inside a class with the static keyword. Static integer, I can say batch code. Okay, batch code I'm taking like this is equal to, I can give some values actually. Okay, so you can initialize like double one double two. That is the batch code of the uh, every student inside the batch. This batch code is common to all the students. That is how, of course, you can add public here, guys, public static like that. You can add a public access modifier also. If you don't specify anything, it is by default, private. So let me delete this for more clarity. Anyhow, we will add it when you are working. It's not compulsory to have access modifier as of now. These three are instance members or normal member variables, but this is static member variable. So what is difference between static variable and other variables? We have roll number, integer, batch code is also roll number, but this is having static and it doesn't have any static. So what is difference between roll number and batch code? Roll number is created for every student that we create. For every student object, you will have roll number, but roll batch code is only one variable which contains a value like double one double two, which will be shared by all the objects of the same class. Suppose if I create something like this, student s1 is equal to new student, first object. Here I am giving roll number using a constructor, roll number 1, name Ram, and something like average is something like 89.2, something like this. This is first object. Okay, second object s2, I'm taking second student object s2, roll number 2 I'm giving, Name I'm giving as Krish, and this is 91 point something like 4 I'm giving. Third object, S3, student S3 I'm taking, new student of 3, and John I'm giving, and here I'm giving as 90 4.6, like this I'm giving. Okay, like this we have some values, guys. So we have three objects, right? Every object contains some instance members here. So these are instance members, guys. Here I'm writing these are instance variables or member variables, okay, or data members you can call it. This is said to be static variable. So what is the difference between static variable and instance variables? Instance variables or member variables are getting created for every object. S1 contains roll number, name and average. S2 contains roll number, name and average. S3 also contains roll number, name and average. But whereas when it comes to static variable or static member variable, okay, or static data member, which is batch code, is only one variable, one copy of the variable is available for the entire class. Means for entire student class, whether you create 3 objects or 30 objects or 300 objects, the variable is only one will be created inside memory. That is the the power of static variable. So when do we go for it? When you have a common value for all the objects, like as I said, you batch code 1112 is common for all the students. Like I can say 2025, okay, passed out student. Then I can say batch code is equal to 2025 or 2026. So whatever is there, the batch code you are giving here is common for all the students of the class. In that case, we go for static data member. Is it clear, everybody? Yeah. So let's open Visual Studio and then write the code. Okay. So that we will understand what is this static data member. So that's all about static data member, guys. What is static method? Static method is a method which will be called directly without creating object. Okay. So if you have any method, normal method, you have to create object. Otherwise, we cannot call it. But whereas if you have a static method, it can be called without object. Okay, I'll show you anyhow example so that you'll understand later. Let's go for how to implement this static member variable versus instance variable so that you'll understand this. Okay, and coming to the last one, in order to understand static constructor, we should know these two so that you'll understand. Okay, yeah, it's creating, so it is taking some time to load. Yeah. So like this, we can work with static keyword in three different ways. Yeah. So we are selecting console app.NET framework. Click on next. So here I'm selecting our folder. So static or demo static one. Okay. Like static member variable. Like this, I created. Click on create. It is getting created. So now we are going to see how to create a class called student class, in which we are taking roll number, name and average. After that we are taking a data member, static data member called batch code, and then we'll initialize and we'll do it. Okay, so let's do the same example what is there in our notes. Okay, so what are you doing? We are creating a class. What is the example is all about? Static data member. Of course, we can create a separate class. As I told you, you can right click on this solution explorer, you can add a new class and you can write the code there. I'm not doing it as of now because we know it already. So what are we doing? Class name, I'm taking it as student, in which I'm taking three instance variables like integer, roll number, string name. Of course, you can add private also, guys. It's your wish. Most of the cases we give private for all the data members, and the double average. But when it comes to public, mostly static variable, we mostly give public. Okay, but I'm writing directly static integer b code. B code means batch code, or you can say batch code like this. Okay, I'm giving 2025 or 2026, whatever, or double one double two, guys. It's your wish. So now what are you doing? You want to write a constructor. So what is the batch code? I mean shortcut for constructor, guys. Do you remember this?
CTOR tab two times press.
Very good. We got it, and we are initializing. So what I'm initializing, r1 equals to 0 because it's a default constructor, right? Name equals to null because string default value is null. Average equal to 0. This is also integer or double numeric type. So this is a default constructor. So what about parameterized constructor? Again, I'm typing shortcut CTOR. Here I'm taking integer RNO, string name, and double A, which is same names I'm using, so I have to use this keyword here. So what is that? This dot RNO equals to RNO, this dot name is equal to name, and this dot AVG equals to AVG. So this is parameterized constructor. So here we have initialized directly. Actually, instead of writing here, we will use a static constructor, guys. That is the actual purpose of it. Let me write without static constructor. Later on we will keep it inside a static constructor. Okay, yeah. So now what are we doing? We are writing a something called method public void display or show data, like that you can take it. And here console dot write line roll number plus this dot rnvo, or you can say directly rnvo also, no problem. Next, name of the student plus concatenation by name. Finally, what do you call average? Okay, I said avg, this dot avg, avg. Okay, but here at the time of printing, I'm also printing my what do you call batch code as well. Batch code is not given by user, it is given by the college management, right? So that is why I have initialized here. I'm not asking, or I'm not taking it from the student. I have initialized directly inside the class. So that is why this 2025 should come automatically for every student of the class. So that is why you should not use this keyword, guys. Directly batch code, you need to print it directly. Only for instance members this keyword can be used. We cannot use this keyword for static members. If you're trying to use here, let us see what is saying. See, guys, it's an error. Can you see the error message, guys? Let me zoom it for you. So static cannot be used for sorry, this cannot be used for static variable. You can see the message. Member student dot batch code cannot be accessed with an instance reference. Qualify it with the type name instead, so you cannot use it. Only batch code you need to write it. Okay, so that is the difference between instance members and static. Now let's come here and take two you can take three objects. Student s1 is equal to new student. First student details I'm giving roll number 1, name Ram, and I'm giving average like 89.2, something like this. Next, student s2 is equal to new student 2 crash, and 91.4, something like this I'm giving. And the last student is three objects like this. You can take multiple, guys. Student of 3 comma John, and I'm giving as 96.4, something like this I'm giving, or 93.6, like this I'm giving. And then we can call methods for all these three. So s1 dot display. So I'm displaying first student details, followed by s2 dot display. I'm displaying second student details, s2 dot display. Finally, we are calling s3 third object details as well. But what is common here for all these three students? The common thing is something called batch code. That is what is nothing but your static data number. So here I'm writing static data number or static member variable. So let us run this and test it, guys. You can say console.read key at the end of it, so that you will get output for all of them. Control F5, I'm executing, and I'll be getting output. So what do you get output now? S1 details like 1 RAM and 89.2, S2 details. Along with that, you will get a batch code also, that is 2025. You can see here, guys. So yes, first student batch code is 2025, second student batch code is 2025, third student batch code also is 2025. So to get more clarity, you give a new line here so that you will understand clearly. So now you see the output. You get a new line between one object to another object so that it looks good. You can see here. So first object contains roll number, name, and marks average, followed by batch code. Roll number 2, I mean, is equal to displayed here. You can delete it. So like this, batch code is only one variable, guys. Whether we have three variables, three objects, or 30 objects, only one batch code variable is there. So if we have such common values for the entire group of objects, then go for static data number. Okay, yeah, that is about static data number. So what is static constructor? Instead of writing this variable directly outside, we will keep it inside the static constructor. Okay, so let us see this. uh, okay, so what do we do is we will just comment this, and we will keep it like this, and we'll write a static constructor. How to write it? Static class name. What is class name? Student. Okay, what do we write here? You can write a batch code is equal to the value 2025 or 2026. So what is static class name? Is a static constructor. So if it is normal constructor, we will write just access modifier space what you call class name. But here class name is common, but you should write static before that. And public. So see, guys, if I am writing public, what it is saying? It will give you error. Access modifiers are not allowed on static constructor. You cannot write like this. That is why static space class name, that is doing static constructor. So what is difference between normal constructor, means this default constructor, and static constructor? Of course, we know static keyword is there for static constructor, and public access modifier is there for instance constructor or default constructor. That is the physical appearance details differences. But internally, which one will be called first? So both will be called as soon as you create object. This one will be created after creating object, I said, right? At the time of creating object, this is getting called. What about static constructor? It will be called before all the constructors are getting called, guys. So first this one will be called, followed by object creation, means instance constructors. Physically, first we are writing default constructor, but second I am writing static constructor. But in terms of execution, first it always runs static constructor, then initialize the static member variables if we have, then only your constructor, default constructor or parameterized constructors are getting invoked. That is the difference you need to remember, guys. Okay, so what is static constructor? Static constructor is used to initialize. Okay, static variable is done already. What is static constructor? It is preceded with static keyword, is a common thing. The static keyword, and it is used to, it will be called, what is the purpose of it? It is exclusively used. Exclusively means only for what type of variables? Use it to initialize static data members only, or static member variables only. So we cannot initialize non-static variables. That's the important difference between static constructor and default constructor. If you go to default constructor, you can initialize static variables and non-static variables also. But static constructor is exclusively used to initialize static data members only. Okay. So which one will be called? It will be called before the instance constructor or default constructor. That's the first point we need to remember. Okay. So before calling all the constructors, means all the default constructor or whatever, first static constructor is getting called. Okay, this is the important difference. And we cannot write any access modifiers for static constructor. That is also another difference. Okay. So let's go and check it out, guys. We'll go to our Visual Studio. We'll try to initialize. Suppose I'm deleting this line RNO equal to 0 and I'm writing inside this. See, guys, what it is saying? It is showing error. So what is the meaning? What is the error message? Can you see the error message, guys? An object reference is required for the non-static field method or property. So what is the meaning? You cannot initialize non-static members inside the static constructor. Only static members can be initialized inside the static constructor. But here, what happens when I cut it and when I paste it inside the default constructor? There is no error, guys. So in a normal constructor or instance constructor or default constructor or parameterized constructor, whatever, you can initialize both static as well as non-static. But whereas when it comes to static constructor, it is exclusively used for initializing static data members. Means only static variables can be initialized inside the static constructor. And I want to know, sir, which one is getting called first. For the sake of that, I am writing here, instance constructor or default constructor. Okay, default constructor. Like this, I wrote something, and here I am writing static constructor, so that we'll understand which one is getting called first. We'll check it out. This said to be static constructor. Of course, it is parameterized constructor. Obviously, this one will be called parameterized. Okay, or you can say instance constructor or parameterized constructor. Okay. Of course, this cannot be called. Anyhow, we are not calling this because we are not creating object without any parameters, right? We are passing with parameters. So now we have this one and this one. So which one will be called first? So always static constructor will be called first, and that too only one time it is getting called. But these are getting called many times as per your how many times I'm creating objects? Three times. Three times it will call a parameterized constructor. But how many times the static constructor is getting called? Only one time for the entire class. Okay, let's run it and see the output, guys. The output is round is equal to round. Let me delete this is equal to, yeah. Now let us see the output. See, guys, static constructor only one time it is called. See the parameterized constructor, how many times is getting invoked? First time, second time, third time. But static constructor is only called only once. So that is the difference between static constructor and other instance constructor. So instance constructor means either it is parameterized or parameterless, whatever. These are getting called so many times. Static constructor is only one time. Which is coming first? Static constructor is always on time, only one time. That too, first static constructor followed by instance constructor. So this is what the difference you need to remember. Why it is called first? Because the value can be used across all other objects, right? because we are using this value across all the objects. So first the value has to be initialized, right? That is the reason first static constructor is getting called. It is initializing with 2025, and then we are calling parameterized constructor with first object, their second object. So this value has to be available for all objects, right? That is why the first static constructor is getting called and the value is initialized. That will be used by rest of the objects of the same class. Okay, that is all about static constructor. So is it clear, everybody? Yeah. Last but not the least, that is said to be what you call private constructor. Generally, private constructors are used. Normally, we never use it, guys. Very rare cases we go for it. Private constructors are generally used for, there are some, you know, like mm, design patterns are there, singleton design pattern. So there we use it actually. Okay, so that is the actual purpose of private constructor. So private constructor means it cannot be called directly, guys. It should be called from a public constructor. Okay, we have to create a public constructor that should call your private constructor, guys. So inside private constructor, what are the things we need to do? Let us discuss now. Private constructor. So what is it? So since it is private constructor, right? It is a constructor which cannot be accessible. Okay, which cannot be accessible outside the class. Accessible outside the class. Only within the class itself we can access. Okay, that is what private constructor is all about. So generally, when do we use it? So we want to stop the creation of object from outside the class. So nobody should create, the object from outside of the class. Then we go for it, guys. Okay. Okay. Generally, it is used in singleton design pattern actually. Okay. Let me show you what is singleton example. Okay. So let us say. If you create a normal constructor, so how to create object now? Let's create a new class. So if you create a new class, if you have any private constructor, you cannot uh, create an object from outside. Yes, whenever you create an object from outside, you cannot call the private constructor. Okay. So class. Okay. So I'm giving as my class. I'm creating as my class. Now inside this, I have a constructor, guys. Generally, how to create a constructor? CTOR. Okay, CTOR. I'm saying this is a public constructor, normal. Okay, console.writeline. What is this? Constructor. Okay, normal constructor invoke. So just I'm giving it as private instead of public. It will become private constructor. But if you're trying to call it, or if you're trying to create object for this my class, you'll get an error, guys, because it's a private constructor, right? You're trying to call it. So what I'm saying, my class m is equal to new my class. The moment you create like this, you'll get an error. See guys, what it is saying? My class my class dot my class is inaccessible due to its production level because it's a private, right? So it's a private, you cannot be accessible outside the class, but I'm trying to access. This is the problem with the private constructors. Then what to do? You need to take a static method actually. So take a static method. Yes. Okay. So which is said to be public static. So what is the class name? Return type my class. Okay. So class name is there. Same name we need to give my class or whatever. So what is the method name? I'm creating my method name as create instance. Create instance means create the object. That is the meaning. Or you can say create object also, guys. There is no problem inside it. Now what should I do is, excuse me, you need to take a private variable. What type of variable? Static type variable. Private. Okay. Static. Or you can directly say here return new my class. Like this you can do it, guys. We are creating a new object. This is the way you can do it. Okay. Return new my class, but there is no object is coming, right? So this time, yeah, so you need to take a variable here. What type of variable you are taking? To take a variable of static variable private static class name is my class and object name is my obj. Like this I create as my obj. Okay, now what you need to do is, here you need to, okay, my obj is equal to new my class. So what are we doing here? We are calling the constructor, private constructor from here, guys. We are calling private constructor from here. This one is getting called my obj is equal to, this is the object name is equal to new my class. You are calling this constructor. So you are calling private constructor from a public method which is said to be static method. This is the way indirectly we are calling. Now you need to return this object. Return what is my object name? My obj. You say this. That's it. Now the error is gone. See, the error is gone here. My class m is equal to new my class. But this time what I can do is, you can call like this. My class m is equal to, okay. So what is the class name? My class dot create instance. Like this we need to do it, guys. Now you can write any method if you want to write any method here. Let us write a normal method, public void show or display. You can write like that. Console right line show from, okay. You can say what is the class name? My class. That is something. And how do you know that private constructor is called? You can give a message. Private constructor invoke, like that. You can give a message. So far so good. Let's call m dot show. Perfectly all right. Console dot read key, and then now you run it. So what is happening here, guys? So it may be lengthy as of now, you may not understand as of now clearly, guys. When you go to upcoming sessions, you'll understand how to create object and how to return objects like that. See guys, right now we have a static member variable. What is this? Private static my class my object. So generally we'll write like this, na, class name space object. You can also say like this. Okay, but how many objects you want to create? Only one object, right? So that is the reason private static. Static means only one object I want to create. That is why static is. So this object is declared, but not memory is not occupied for this. Not memory is not allocated for this. So object name is declared, but it is not instantiated. So this is a private constructor. which cannot be called outside the class. So how to call this private constructor from within the class? You can call it. How to call it? Public static. So with the static method, I'm creating my class type method, that is said to be create instance. This create instance method will create an object with the help of private constructor. So what is my obj here? My obj is equal to new my class. So here I'm calling private constructor. Calling private constructor. We are returning object. Okay. Let us see the output now. Now you will get the message as private constructor invoked. So this is the way to work with the private constructor. You can see here guys, private constructor invoked and show from my class. Okay. So this is the way to work with the what you call private constructor. So we have a constructor with private keyword. Generally, we never use private constructor many times in project base. Real time we use only public or default constructor and parameterized constructors widely used. Sometimes rare cases we go for copy constructor, but most of the cases only those. This is very rarely. As I said, you when you go for singleton design pattern, we use what you call private constructor. Okay, this is called private constructor. So any constructor which is created with the private keyword is called as private constructor. It cannot be called from outside the class. In order to call it, we have to create a static method. Inside the static method, we are creating object and we are returning object. This is the way to call. So here, creating object with the static method. The static method is internally calling your private constructor. That is the story, guys. So we have created a private constructor. Since I am not able to call from outside the class, you have to use any other static method or public constructor in order to call the private constructor. So this is the way to go, guys. Okay. So this example might be lengthy as of now for you. So yeah. So is it okay, guys? Try to understand. One more time. If you have any questions on the same, I'll explain you tomorrow also. Okay. Yeah. So that's all for today. So tomorrow we'll continue with the uh, new topic. Okay, like inheritance and all we'll discuss. Okay, guys. Let me stop the recording.